This is the End of the Road podcast with your host, Michael Coco. Exploring the horizons we never touch because we're already there.
Welcome, and thanks for listening. Tonight we're outside of Minneapolis speaking with Emrys Abner. You're going to hear that Emrys has a lot of interesting projects going on, and we're going to focus on his new book called Solomonic Pentacles, all about Solomonic magic. And my sense is that Solomonic magic, well, it's really easy to get sort of lost in the deep end of it, not only historically, but sort of practically implementing all the complexities. And Emrys's book, and I think intention, as you're going to hear, is to start off at maybe the easier waters of the ocean, the part that you can wade in without perhaps fear of the sharks, yet really get a sense of sort of the depths that are there as well. And if you like what you hear, be sure to check out Emrys's website, acousticalchemist, for his other wonderful offerings, including the Random Illusions podcast. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we're going to conclude this podcast with an exploration of Emrys's other project, that being a professional musician with a number of CDs out. And Emrys is going to play for us one of the tracks on his new release called Almost Through the Dark. And without further ado, here begins the wonderful conversation and friendship with Emrys Abner. Well, Emrys, I love the book on Solomonic magic, but I think I need to see you play your guitar at a winery sometime in Minnesota. I think I'm missing out.
Yeah. Well,
I'm-
come in Minnesota. I play like 150 shows a year, so it's easy to find a spot.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of this, we're gonna play one of your songs, so we'll give the audience a little taste of what they're missing. Well, anyway, back to the magic at hand. And this is something I didn't know about Solomonic magic. Is it originated like thousands of years after King Solomon's death. It really, literally has nothing to do with him. I mean, not literally. I mean, we can talk about the.
Well, figuratively, it has a lot to do with him. It has a lot to do with his, with the character of him, and kind of this idea that we've built up in our minds of Solomon being this kind of all-knowing, wise, benevolent magician king. We've kind of built him up in our imagination to be this larger-than-life figure. And it's that larger-than-life figure that I think the original authors were intending to attribute authorship to kind of lend the document authenticity, and also maybe to hide the true authorship of the document in a time when maybe those authors would have been in a little bit of trouble for producing some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I kind of, I was thinking, I'm not so sure that's like my favorite human attribute is like we have to make everything official or, be associated with something as opposed to on our own, but maybe that cuts both ways. Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think, well, there's kind of a long tradition, especially within esoteric documents, of attributing authorship to some venerated figure, like the books of Moses were not written by Moses. They were written in Germany, way thousands of years after Moses' death. And also regular, like mainstream religious documents, right? Some of the books in the Bible are attributed to writers that couldn't have written them.
Right.
So it's part of a long-standing literary tradition within religious texts, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what humans perceive to be the character of King Solomon and how that is relevant to the magical pursuits, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think some of the aspects of King Solomon that make him kind of the ideal figure to bear the burden of Solomonic magic was well, first of all, he was a Jewish king, and a good deal of what are in at least the Solomonic Pentacles uh, are based in Jewish Kabbalah. So that made sense. That connection makes sense. The actual transmission of the document surrounding the Pentacles, so all of the conjurations, the preparations, and all of that stuff that makes up the bulk of the Greater Key of Solomon, is actually more closely related to a Greek document called the Hygromantia, and was probably transmitted along those lines. And if listeners are interested in learning more about like the academic view of the transmission of those documents over history, Stephen Skinner's got a really great book on it. And gosh, I think we may have to edit this little section out. I'm going to go quick look at my library and get the title for that book for you.
Oh, is it called Techniques of Solomonic Magic?
Yep.
Yeah.
that's,
Oh no,
that's
the reason why is because I'm looking at your book on page 26, and you give and this is one of the things I wanted to discuss is you sort of talk about Dr. Skinner's definition of Solomonic magic and sort of as sort of a way to get started on that.
Yeah, because his definition is so good and comprehensive,
Yeah.
and evenly stated. I like the way that he's uh, defining Solomonic magic by its attributes without defining how you need to practice it.
Yeah. And since I've got the book out, so maybe I'm cheating. You want to talk about the quote is the hallmarks of Solomonic magic are one, it is learned magic relying primarily upon written material for its transmission as opposed to oral folk magic, astral magic, or herbalism. That's number one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a grimoire tradition.
right. And then he talks about the magician's always enclosed in a magical circle.
That is a unique aspect. So as opposed to folk magic, where there's different protective things that you would do, the protective element in Solomonic magic is the circle, and that is not unique to Solomonic magic, but it's core to Solomonic magic.
Yeah, you want to talk about maybe the circle? Is there a specific energy or a role in sort of the invocation or evocation of spirits that is circular, or how do you see the circle as a sacred geometry, for lack of a better word?
Well, in Solomonic magic, here's the basic premise for how it works is you first appeal to the highest authority, which would be the Abrahamic deity, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. You appeal to that deity for authority and for basically you're asking to become an avatar of it, and then you appeal to the next lowest authority. You appeal to some of the angels, and you ask them to basically stand at your side and constrain the demon that you are about to summon. And then you summon the demon, and you kind of force the demon to do your bidding at spiritual gunpoint. That's kind of the gist. And in my book, I kind of take umbrage with that approach in general, and And so if you believe that you are summoning a demon that is going to, rip you to shreds if it's not constrained, if that's where you're coming from with this, then absolutely stay inside the circle. That's what it's for. It's to
Right.
provide a protective barrier between you and that which you are summoning, which what you are summoning, you would, in Solomonic tradition, you would summon it within a special triangle that exists outside that circle. So there's a place for the demon to be, there's a place for you to be, and they are separated by that circle and the triangle to keep you safe. Now, my book kind of challenges that assertion by saying, in a couple of different ways. One of them being, we need to question whether or not the demons that we're summoning, are they really that dangerous? Do they need to be constrained? Do you need all that protection? And at least with my experience with spirits of the Goetia, I don't think you do. I don't. They've never, at least, come across as dangerous or threatening to me, and I've never really felt the need for a lot of that protective stuff that is in the greater key. And then the other challenge that I have is that we need to invoke the angel to constrain, and then invoke the demon to do the work. When in practice, I think modern magicians are finding out that angels are happy to do a lot of that work too. And I think the idea back in the day was that angels were a little higher minded and they wouldn't sully their hands by doing menial work, like helping you find love or helping you with your business or any of those earthly things, right? But look at the plethora of books out there that are doing exactly that, asking angels to help with everyday things, and magicians are finding that it works, and angels do help. And so you might not need to go through that hierarchy of appeals to authority in order to get what you want.
Yeah. Well, maybe instead of we should talk more about your use of circles, perhaps. I mean, do you still find them useful in the practice and essential? Is it for tradition, or is it sort of like a backup plan, or do you get some energy from them? Or
Well, I will say I have a protective circle in my space right in front of my altar. I've kind of it's a rug that I've gotten printed so that I don't have to redraw it every time, and I don't have to, have some crudely drawn thing on the floor. And that works out really well. I think I don't really use it for protection. I use it more as like a signifier of sacred space. So within the circle, I'm working, I'm doing my spiritual, whatever I'm focused on at the time, that's happening in that circle. And then that's kind of a transition place, so that when I go in there, I'm of a certain mindset, and when I leave it, I can leave that stuff there and go on with my day, and not kind of carry it around with me.
yeah, yeah. And I sort of thought that was a theme that ran through your book that maybe we could explore about. You seem to you seem to present sort of the dichotomy of how Solomonic magic works. Is it spirits or products of the psyche? And I think to you it doesn't matter so much as long as your belief in it works. It is sort of the individual practitioner, as opposed to I don't really sense from you that you have a firm stand on it either way, but probably you lean more toward the products of the psyche understanding of it, perhaps. But maybe I misread it.
No, you didn't. I think a lot of the preparatory measures are psychological in their effect and in their intent. And part of that comes from, conversations that I've had with angels about that exact thing, right? As I'm writing these books, I'm talking to them and saying, well, what do you want me to say? How does this, what information do you want out there? And I remember a specific instance where I was talking to an angel about incenses. And I said, there's a lot of information out there about what incense to use for this application or that application, or, is there any incense that you like? And I was using a Ouija board at the time to do it. And the response I got back was simple and funny. They just said, we don't have noses. And I was like, you're right, you don't. So they were signaling that, the incense is really for those who have noses, maybe to get us in a certain frame of mind, which is why I encourage people to use the incense they like. So if you use an incense that you think stinks and it's distracting to you, then it's not going to be helpful in putting you in the right mind space to be mentally quiet, spiritually quiet, so you can hear the responses from the spirits that you're invoking. You need to be in this really like calm, stable headspace, and incense can help with that. But if it, like I said, if it's an incense that's distracting, then it's going to hinder that.
Yeah.
So, and the preparatory measures as well, the baths and the fasting, that's all for mental sharpness. It's for preparing your body and your mind so that you understand the gravity of what you're about to do, and you're taking it seriously, and you feel pure in your mind and your body, so that you can have those spiritual interactions you want to have.
Sure. So are you, would you say that, on the spectrum of talking to angels, do you have to have a special intention and a special space to talk to angels, or is that sort of more ubiquitous and we're doing it all the time, whether we call it the thought or elsewhere? Did you have a sense of that, or how do you, or is that too literal a question?
No, it's a great question. I think they're a little less formal than we like to imagine them to be. They're down to just have a conversation too. Like they don't always need to be summoned for a purpose. Sometimes they're just happy to chat and get to know you and have you get to know them. And that's valuable time spent as well. So I think if people want to talk to angels, nothing to wait for. You don't have to worry about all the messy preparations and stuff. You just summon them and talk. Just start having a conversation. See where it goes. Develop a relationship.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the third definition by Dr. Skinner that you point out in your book. Procedures will involve a number of magical implements which will have to be consecrated prior to the operation.
Yes. So that is an aspect that maybe is a little more unique to Solomonic magic, where there are a lot of doodads.
Yeah, but you're calling them doodads. It's like that. That's great. I mean, that kind of, well, there's a kind of humor that, like, I mean, it's like you're both and, because at one hand this is like some serious magic that we're attributing to this old wise guy that and then on the other hand they're doodads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to keep it light, because just like anything else in any other aspect of life, as soon as you start taking yourself too seriously, it's easy to go off the rails,
Yeah.
So I think it's it's good to approach magic, obviously, with a sort of seriousness. There is a gravity to what you're doing, but you should also maintain your sense of curiosity and wonder and playfulness, because these spirits are playful too, and they kind of, I find that they kind of come at you with a similar energy that you come at them with. So if you approach them in a relaxed state of mind, they're going to be calm and relaxed when they're talking to you. If you're really excitable, they're going to be excitable. You know, they kind of match your energy. And so I think if you go in there with this really serious, somber tone, you're going to meet some really serious, somber angels.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I prefer a little more levity in my experience
Yeah.
of them.
And that's, I think, also related to what we were talking about earlier about the need for extreme measures of protection. If you come into that with the expectation that there are all these things going to potentially do you serious harm, then that obviously is going to have an influence on your relationship with them and what the outcome is, perhaps.
And I think there's a mechanism by which that all kind of makes sense. Um, this is just my theory, my working theory at the moment. It might change. We'll see. But my working theory is that when we're talking to spirits, uh, they they operate in a different plane of existence than we do. Um, I think it's really difficult for them to come to our like physical plane and interact with us in that way, which is why like full body type evocations are really, really rare, even amongst advanced practitioners. They're still pretty rare. I think they have an easier time manipulating kind of the impulses in our brain to create perceptions by which we can hear, see, perceive them. And so they're basically working with our hardware,
Mm-hmm.
what we have. So our memories, our thoughts, our tone of voice, even our personalities, maybe. And so when we hear them, when those messages start coming through, they always sound a little bit like us. They kind of maybe use phrases that we might use, or one person asked me a great question. They said, "Well, why do angels always speak in English?" And I said, "Well, they don't. It's because you speak English. They're using your brain. If they're speaking to a Portuguese person, they're going to speak Portuguese." Um, so so I think, yeah, they're using our hardware to speak with us, and that's an easier way for them to do it. One of the questions I had asked was, I said, what is coming here, and like coming here bodily? What does that feel like for you? And I think it was actually Raphael that I was asking this to, and he said it felt like being encased in a coffin, surrounded by cement, and thrown in the sea. He said that it's that constraining to come here and to do that for them. They said it's very unpleasant for them. And so, yeah, that's why I think they take the easier, probably more pleasant for them route of interacting with us through our minds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go back to. I know that you're very interested in sort of the doodads and the magical implements. So, can you maybe talk about some of those and how they relate to the Solomonic magic practice?
Sure. So there's a number of, I mean, there's a lot of sharp things. There's a lot of daggers, sickles, swords, special engraving tools, things of that nature. There's special garments that should be worn. Um, I think I think that what's in the Greater Key of Solomon is a bit overkill in terms of implements that you need, um, because they'll commonly have an implement that maybe only has one purpose. Um, so like there's three different swords, daggers, other blade type implements. My thought is why couldn't it just be one? Why do we need three? Um, or or the the specialized garb. I think one of the one of the things was specially consecrated slippers or sandals, and they have to be made of white satin and all of these things. And I'm going, well, who can make their own shoes? Not a not a lot of people. Um, and so my take on it was to look at the implements that are suggested and to say, okay, well, what's actually within reach for most people, and how can we modify this to say, like, you know these things, these implements are worthwhile. We can easily manufacture them, or we can buy them, or we can get them somehow. And then there's other ones that just um, are are so far out of scope that the average person would have to spend thousands of dollars just to get started. And for me, that doesn't really seem in the spirit of the magic. I'd rather see people just dig in and get going with what they got, instead of waiting to get all of the implements before they begin.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just going to say, well, let's talk about Pentacles then specifically, because I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a big part of the book. Um, what are they, and how do you use them? And I know you make your own, so all the above.
Yeah, so pentacles are great, man. They're a form of Jewish talismanic magic. Interestingly enough, they don't appear in every version of the Greater Key of Solomon. I think there are about 120 known versions of the Greater Key of Solomon, and yeah, not all of them include pentacles. So what we've come to understand from that is that the preparatory measures, conjurations, and the like in the Greater Key came from one source, and the pentacles came from another source, and at some point they got mashed together. We don't know when that happened. We don't have a document that shows us archaeological evidence of this is when this happened and this is who combined them. But we do have secondary documents that show that they were combined at some point. And but the pentacles themselves are kind of almost commonplace Jewish amulets. They follow a lot of the formula that a lot of Jewish talismans follow, where there's they're inside a double circle. Um, they they're almost all in Hebrew, except for I think two have Latin instead of Hebrew. Um, they include a lot of divine names. They include a lot of astrological symbols. They include a lot of kind of religious alchemical symbols. And these are all designed to direct or manipulate energy, to call in different angelic beings, or to make appeals directly to the divine. And the way that a pentacle works is you can think of it like think of it like a computer program. So if you want healing, say, you would turn to the second pentacle of Mars. On the second pentacle of Mars, there is a uh, a psalm around the outside that invokes the angels that will help you with healing. There are angels and other spiritual figures named within that pentacle, along with some divine names that are all associated with healing. So it's almost like the homework's been done for you. So you don't have to hunt and peck to find the right entities or the right divine names or the right symbols or whatever. It's all there, and it's ready to go. And you just basically set your intention on that pentacle. You tell it what you want it to do, and it will do it for you in perpetuity until you put another intention on that pentacle. So it's kind of a set it and forget it style of magic that I think people find it really easy. It's easy to grasp onto the concept of this pentacle is for this thing, and I ask it to do this thing for me, and then I wear it. Okay, done. Um, and in that way, pentacles are super versatile, even beyond the scope of the Greater Key of Solomon's. They have their place within the tradition, but they also have their own thing going on. And I think we can really look at them and expand what they can be used for if we just have a little imagination. So I think for magicians, pentacles are just great little tools.
Yeah. I was thinking when you said that, and the pentacle is surrounded by a circular boundary too. And when we do the Solomonic magic, we're inside of a circle. It's almost like it's pentacles all the way down, and we become. I mean, wait, do we become like the pinnacle in the way of like, either looking at it like for invocation or sort of crystallizing our intent in a way to go forward within a circle? Perhaps we become the pinnacle, perhaps. But
I like that idea.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's and I guess we do, don't we? I mean, we're inside a circle that's meant to condense energy and to protect us, and we're asking it to do something for us. We're making ourselves part of that pentacle, so to speak. Yeah.
But it could be like pentacles all the way down, because maybe we're the pinnacle for something else. Like for invocation. When we
Sure.
invocate, we become the intent of something else, and it's, I don't know. But I'm probably getting a little far afield, but I'm just um, maybe we should move on to amulets.
Yeah, I think they're super handy. They're just as far as magical tradition goes, they're uh or I say as far as amulets go, they're nice because they're so specific and obvious. Wrong word. Often amulets are more for a general purpose. Like you might go to a metaphysical shop and you'll see a pendant with a certain stone for luck or health or wealth or love, or it's very, very broad categories. I think the pentacles are a little more specific than that, even within wealth, right? So there's several Jupiter pentacles. There's even a couple more in other planetary sets that have to do with wealth. But they all deal with different aspects of it. So there's a pentacle for um, for just starting to build wealth. There are pentacles to keep wealth going. There are also pentacles to grow wealth, basically with investments and trades and other things to multiply the money you already have. So for instance, if somebody was just starting out their own business, right? I would say get a Jupiter 1 pentacle, maybe a Jupiter 3, but don't get a Jupiter, a Jupiter 2, but maybe don't get a Jupiter 4. Because Jupiter 4 is for building on wealth you already have. You don't have any yet. So it's not going to do you any good. You need to build that wealth first with the other pentacles. And so there's maybe there's more strategy and layering that can go on with Solomonic pentacles than with other types of amulets.
And I know that you build your own pentacles, but when you say go out and get one, you also kind of give some advice in the book on that too. Perhaps maybe you should.
Yeah, if people want to make their own, I think they should. I do offer them so I have a shop. I offer a whole lot of pentacles, altar plates, different types of implements. But one of the things that I'm really clear on in my shop is that the stuff that I'm providing is a matter of convenience, not a matter of need. So I never want people to feel like if they want a pentacle, they have to come to me to get it. If they want to, great, I'll make them a beautiful one. I've got this awesome CNC machine. It does really precise work.
I've seen them. They are beautiful. I will verify that.
Yeah, so I can make them look pretty and clean and neat for you, but angels don't need pretty and clean and neat. They're fine with sloppy. One of the analogies, I don't remember if I put it in this book or if it's in my next book, but I said, if you were stranded on a desert island and you wanted to make a seventh pentacle of the sun to help get you out of that situation, and all you had to do it with was a seashell and a rock, and you put your heart into making that seventh pentacle of the sun on that seashell by scratching in there with the rock, an angel's not going to look down on you on that desert island and go, well, I'd like to help him, but his Hebrew is pretty messy. They're not going to do that, right? They don't need it to be perfect. They want you to know what your intent is going to be. They want you to be focused. They know what the pentacles are. They know what their role is when those pentacles are called. So if people want to make their own, I say go ahead and do it. In the greater key, they can be made out of a whole lot of things. It doesn't need to be metal. It can be paper. There's actually specific directions for how to make them on paper with what colors, etc. But I've seen people make them out of all sorts of stuff. I've seen them made out of clay, out of wood, and the people that have made them, they swear that they work. So I think go ahead and make pentacles with whatever you got. And if you don't feel like doing the work, there are plenty of people out there that are that have the ability to make them for you, and that's fine too. One thing I would be cautious about, if listeners are going to be purchasing pentacles online, there are a lot of kind of cheap jewelry manufacturers that don't make them correctly. And one of the easiest ways to spot whether they're made correctly or not is whether or not they're two-sided. So every planetary set for the pentacles, and I'll back up just by saying, in case people aren't familiar, that the 44 Solomonic pentacles are divided up by planetary body. So they're pentacles of Mercury, Mars, the Sun, the Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. And okay, yes. So for every planetary set, there is one pentacle among them that I've dubbed the emissary pentacle. meaning that on that pentacle there are names of 4 angels who are the angelic regents or kind of middle managers for that planetary energy. And that pentacle needs to be on the back of any pentacle in that planetary set. So if you're doing a Mars 3 pentacle, you need to have Mars 1 on the back. If you're doing a Sun 4 pentacle, you need to have Sun 2 on the back. So every set's got one. And people that are kind of mass producing them, they don't know this. And so they'll make them one-sided. And then people get them and wonder why they don't work so well. Well, there you go. So, but there are a lot of reputable pentacle makers out there. And so when people are looking, I would just encourage them to make sure they know what they're buying. And if you can, purchase it from an actual magician and not from some overseas factory, because if anything goes wrong, you want to be able to go to the person who made it and say, I'm having trouble. Can you help me out with X, Y, or Z? And then you'd have an experienced person who can actually help you through the process and help you figure out maybe what's going on, whatever your issue is. And you don't get that when you buy them from, some unnamed overseas manufacturer. So those are my words of caution for people out there who are looking.
Oh, sure.
To buy.
So fundamentally, what do you see as the relationship between pentacles and angels or spirits or entities? You talked about the role of pentacles in the whole sort of cosmology, but maybe what about them do you think is powerful, perhaps?
Well, there's a couple of things. I've already kind of talked about their specificity, and I believe that is one of their strengths. Calling in the appropriate angels with the appropriate skills to do what you're hoping to do, that's another aspect that makes them a good and powerful candidate for getting your work done. But also, I think they've been used for so many years by so many people. They've kind of got a bit of an egregore energy of their own.
Right.
So when you're using them, you are becoming part of this continuing and living tradition. And it's kind of like so if you so you're a lawyer, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. So in your work, there are probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are probably some types of cases that you handle so often that you know exactly what to do, right?
Right.
So somebody comes to you with a problem, you're like, oh my gosh, I've seen this 1,000 times before. I know exactly how to handle it. That's kind of what it's like with a pentacle. You use a pentacle, an angel goes, I've seen this before. I know what it means. I know what I need to do. I know my role. I know your role. This is all kind of it's standard fare,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that, I think that helps make it a little more powerful too, because you don't have to define everybody's role. You don't have to define all of the outcomes or the ways and means, because these processes are so familiar.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you used the lawyer analogy, because of course the another famous lawyer phrase is, the devil is in the details. And the way you're saying that, because the more sort of details that are in the pentacle, perhaps the more the roles are more delineated, perhaps. The more details, the more figures, the more specificity is involved, then perhaps that helps define the roles more, like you were saying.
Yeah, because it's a common thought. I don't know if it's true or not. I've never had a conversation about this with them. I probably should soon. But it's commonly thought that angels basically have a couple of things they're good at, and they more or less stay in their lane and they do their thing. So that means that calling on the right angel is pretty important, because you don't, if you're having car trouble, you don't want to call the angel who's good at painting. It's they're gonna look at your engine and go, well, it's a very pretty engine. I don't know what to do with it. So you think and think about that as applied to your love life or your financial life or any other aspect of your life you're trying to change with Pentacles. You want to call in the angel that um, has that experience and that expertise to carry out what you're hoping to have them carry out.
Yeah, yeah. So how would you, and this is a question that I've been wanting to ask you the whole time, is like, how do you suggest somebody use your book, and sort of as a way to, and another way of asking the question is sort of, what was the intent in writing the book that you had, kind of the overall big picture?
I think my goal with the book was to kind of make a shallow end of the pool
Yeah,
for people. Because I think Solomonic magic is a pretty deep dive. And a lot of people, I'm going to keep going with the water analogy. I think a lot of people find themselves in over their heads pretty quick, and feel like they can't find their footing. And because of that feeling they get that they've maybe gotten into something a little bit bigger than they're ready for, scares a lot of people off. And what I'm trying to do with this book is create more of an introduction to the tradition and say, okay, well, let's look at these at all of these rules, all of this stuff. Let's try and pare it down to what's really important, and let's try and just make sense of it so that it's really easy to digest, and then you can get going and you can get started. And if after that you get really into it and you get really hardcore and you're like, man, I'm going to follow everything in this grimoire to the leather, good for you. Go for it. Like, that's great. Um, if you go through it and you're like, yeah, I like working with Solomonic magic my way, but I don't really feel the need to do all that is prescribed. That I think that's okay too. I think you gotta go with your gut. You gotta, and that's with a lot of spiritual stuff. You kind of just gotta go with what feels right. Um, and for some people, it's going to be going whole hog, and for some people, it's going to be a scaled back version. And that's what I'm trying to provide is just a little bit of variability, hopefully to make it more accessible to more people.
yeah. No, I think that's, yeah, and you definitely succeed in the in that. It's because and I like the idea that even though it's in a wading pool, it's all the same ocean, so to speak. It's not different than anything else. It's just more, you can take a deeper dive as you're called to or not called to, but you're still in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done experiments where I've tried doing some of the same requests using all of the suggested and prescribed methodologies, and I've tried doing it without all of them, just to see what would happen. And what I've found over the years is that the thing that really affects whether or not the magic works well is how invested I am in it, and whether or not I am focused during the ritual. Whether I had the right implements didn't seem to matter as much. Whether or not I did it with proper astrological timings, from what I could tell, didn't really seem to matter much. But for other people, they might. So I'm also not trying to dictate what everyone's experience is going to be.
Yeah.
Because magic is so individualized. So I'm putting it out there saying, here's my experience. Here's what worked for me. Here's what I found. It might work for you too. But if you're someone who's really, really invested in astrology, it might not work for you unless you observe those astrological timings. Maybe that's really important for you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to suggest without dictating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or are you? I was thinking, it's kind of like neurodiversity among magicians too, because and again, my strength would not be like creating the pentacles in the detail that you create. I mean, my craftsman skill, you could talk to anybody who knows me. It's like, I would be a complete disaster on that. I would like mess things up. I would like use tools and probably, cut off fingers and stuff. That is not my skill.
Well, and that's where I started with them though too. Is I started with a Dremel tool, and I would mostly do this on work trips. So I'd bring my Dremel tool in my suitcase, and I'd bring these huge stacks of metal discs, and of course they always got stopped at airport security. Like,
oh my goodness! I'd like to see them. I'd like to see the security agents going through your suitcase. That's hysterical.
Well, they see all my magic books and all my blah blah blah, and they're what is this? And I just tell them, I say this is these are implements for my religious practice, and you are not to infringe on my rights.
Oh, there you go. Look at you. That's a good line.
And so and to their credit, they've always been respectful of. Once I told them it was a religiously significant object, they were really respectful with it.
Oh, yeah.
So to their credit, they get a gold star for that, or silver star maybe.
A gold pentagram, perhaps.
A gold pentacle, yeah. But I'd hang out in my hotel room, and I'd sit there with my Dremel tool, and I would Dremel in and gosh, they looked awful. They were all over. It took me a couple of years just to even be able to do the Hebrew script in a legible fashion.
Yeah.
So so there's a big learning curve, and we've all got different skills, right? We've all got a different piece of the puzzle.
And me saying I'm not good at it is just another way of making sure that I don't do it. It would probably be the best thing for me if I just sat down and actually did detail with your Dremel tool. And it, because it's developing something that I probably don't have that would complete me as a whatever.
I think it does too. And that's why I encourage people to try making their own, even if they're sloppy, because a sloppy pentacle that you make from the earnest depths of your own heart is going to be so much more effective than a pretty one that you buy online.
Yeah.
It just is. Because that's, when it comes to magic, that's the stuff that matters, right? Where's your heart at? Where's your head at? And I think that's the stuff that angels care about. I don't know that the rest of the specifics are things that they they key into as much.
Yeah. Yeah, no
So,
doubt. No doubt. All right. So before we get to the music, uh, how should people, if they want to connect with you, if they read the book and they want to wade a little bit further out from shore, and connect with you and hang out with you in Minneapolis or other places, how would you recommend that they do that?
Well, I'm easily reachable. Um, Always happy to take emails from people. And if you're looking at something specific, I would say go to my Etsy shop and pick the thing that you are specifically wanting to know about and message me on there, because then I can, I've got a point of reference, and we've got, we can do a dialogue on there. If people just want to hang out, like, the easiest way to find me is honestly to look at my show schedule and come to a show. I love it. I love it when
Because
people come up at a show and they're like, "Hey, wait, you're the Pentacle guy, aren't you?"
yeah,
Like,
because
yeah, man. Oh, I got one of your Pentacles right here. Cool, cool. Which one is that? All right. So, I love hanging out with people at shows, and that is an easy, and obviously we're always in a safe public space. So it's really kind of an ideal way to meet up with people.
yeah. Yeah, so the Thursday, August 28th, you're going to be where? I don't
Thursday.
know.
Oh, that's a good question.
I know I'm teasing you, but I actually know that you, because I was looking to see, be careful what you ask for, because I was looking like, how long of a drive it is for me, and I was like, well, I kind of like. Winery idea,
Oh yeah, so that's a little bar that we play at in Cabin Country in Wisconsin. So yeah, so I'll be at a place called Mix Up Staples Lake on the 28th. But if you look at my gig calendar, I got stuff all year long. Actually, I'm gonna be in your neck of the woods a little bit. I'll be in Naperville in October.
Ah, the
Um,
burbs, the burbs.
be in the Burbs, and I'm doing a book signing there at
Oh,
Malman Brothers bookstore in Chicago.
yeah. Is
Um,
Wait, I always get my Chicago suburbs mixed up. Is Naperville the one that's Wayne's World?
I think it might be. That
I think
sounds
it is.
right.
I think it is. I think it is. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be. Um, uh, if it's not, it's the one next to it. Oh well, we can. I'll put a link to your website and your musical website, perhaps. So
Oh yeah, that'll be great.
and so people can check you out throughout all the. It's been a while since I've been up to Minnesota, so I like that downtown area. That's so cool. But anyway, so should we listen to "Almost Through the Dark"? You want to introduce this a little bit?
Sure. So in addition to being a author and crafter, I'm a musician. I've been a musician my entire life, um, and have been doing it professionally for almost 30 years now. Um, and in it, as part of that, I've got a number of albums out. My last album was called Seven. It was my seventh album release, and this track is the first track on that album, Almost Through the Dark. And I wrote it one winter when we were having one of those winters that never seemed to end. It was like we would get these false springs, and it'd be gorgeous for 2 or 3 days, and then it would be back down to -10. And it would just seem like it was never going to end. And I just had this like weight on me about it. And so I wrote this song as a reminder to me that, all of these dark and cold days, they are going to give way to light and warmth. It's going to happen. It's an inevitable part of the cycle. And also, in other aspects of our lives, when we're dealing with darkness, to know that whenever we're experiencing those really dark moments, the light is not far behind. So,
Getting all alchemical on us.
most musicians are, if you ask them.
Exactly. Well, that's wonderful. And I did want to throw in a little, I was reading your musical bio. It said you solidified your practice at a monastery in New Orleans. And maybe I wanted to ask about that for a little bit. Or there
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. So near the end of college, I got a phone call one morning. I was actually quite hungover, and I got this phone call. Picked up. I'm like, yeah. What's up, man? And it was this guy named Brother Henry from New Orleans, and he said, we got your name from someone at the college, and we would like to recruit you to come down with us next year. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I got nothing else going on, so let's do it. And I kind of forgot that we had that conversation. About 3 months later, I get a mysterious package in the mail with like my itinerary and a couple of plane tickets, and and I realized at that moment, I said, I ran upstairs. I told my parents, I said, I think I signed up to go to a monastery. So I think I'm going to go live there for a while. I leave in a week. I hope that's cool with you guys. And so I ended up, it was the program, it was through AmeriCorps. So it was a volunteer program. And I ended up living at a monastery for the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, which is a French Catholic order that was established to basically care for orphans and set up schools to teach them. And so this place I was staying at was it was a boarding school, and also a retirement community for these Brothers of the Sacred Heart. So it was me and a bunch of monks that were like 40 or more years my senior. And while I didn't take vows, I was expected to act as though I had. So I had to go to prayer 5 times a day. I had to stay in the cloister most of the time, and we did a lot of monkey type stuff. But I was there for about a year, and I was thinking about re-upping actually, but then I was home for my grandfather's funeral, and that's when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And where I was living at the time was on the Gulf of Mexico, just across the Louisiana border, kind of a few miles into Mississippi. And it happened that the eye of Katrina went right over our town. And so it was completely destroyed, the whole town.
Oh, how sad. Yeah.
Some of the buildings of the monastery were left standing, but it was not functional as a monastery or a school. And so when I called and said, yeah, I'd like to come back, they said, please don't. Honestly, you'd just be another mouth to feed and another person we'd have to find a bed for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just stay in Minnesota, do your thing. It was nice to have you down here, but we're dealing with other things now. So that was the end of my monastic exploration.
Oh, that's what you think. I think it's still going on. Yeah. Well,
But it
anyway,
was it
we'll
was
get to
good.
another story.
It was a good experience. I met a lot of really cool people, and really got a taste for what religious life was like. And there is, you know, and this is maybe kind of a weird thing to say, because I know a lot of magicians are um, kind of anti mainstream religion, but there were a lot of beautiful things in that way of life that I really appreciate, like their communal living, the way that they really steward their resources and take care of each other, and just the sense of community that they had was so strong, and their devotion was so strong. Now it's not a devotion that I care to emulate, because they're devoted to different things than I am, but I can admire their devotion nonetheless.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of really beautiful things about monastic life that, quite frankly, if we could take some of those ideas and bring them into the greater world, I think we'd be better for it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. And it's interesting. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me is like, with my own thing, like I could totally see, that sort of life and the beauty of, that sort of Catholic life. But when you take the monk and they become priests and have to manage the flocks and the kids, then it sort of loses the interest in me. When it becomes real world, then it's like, well, I think the priorities, the direct connection. Well, I'm shutting
No,
up.
I think you're
Yeah,
right. I think
yeah,
other stuff takes over, and that's
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
reasons why a lot of them don't take that step,
yeah,
is
yeah,
because
exactly.
they like the life. And actually, the college I went to was St. John's University, is the largest monastery in North America,
Mm.
um, and
And
it's
where is this at again? Is
in
this?
Minnesota.
I thought we are still down in Louisiana. Okay,
No, I went to college in Minnesota, and
okay. Oh,
uh,
that's right. I've heard of St. John's, Minnesota. Sure. Okay, okay. I just got yeah.
yeah, so big monastic community up there, and as students, we were all exposed to it somewhat. Like we had a resident monk on every floor, and we had monk advisors, and some of our teachers were monks,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and sometimes they'd go out to the bar with us, and sometimes they were eager to get out and help the students figure out their spiritual lives, and so we kind of always had them uh, around and available if we had questions. And so yeah, so I've grown to have a deep appreciation for it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so let's get on to Almost Through the Dark.
Alrighty, let's do
And
it.
and Emrys, I appreciate your time here, and I wish you best of luck. And I will check out the Naperville book signing, and or if you might see somebody in the audience come up to you after some show in Minnesota, and who looks a lot like me sometimes.
That'd be a hoot. I'd love it. That'd be super fun. We'll go out and grab some whiskey after. That'd be great.
Oh, now you're talking. Now you're talking. Hey, thanks. Many blessings, and keep up the awesome work. And
Well,
here
thanks.
is
Yeah, thanks for having me
and
on. I
just
really appreciate it.
yeah, and I should let you to talk about introduce the song.
All right. Well, here's Almost Through the Dark. Enjoy. Looking out my window,
I see skeletons of trees reaching into endless gray. It's reaching into me. I'm thinking too much and it weighs me down to the point I feel I can't get out. The air is crisp and quiet, like it has secrets to keep. The night a kind of velvet dark that makes it hard to sleep. Don't think about it, know we're gonna find a way. Don't think about it, know we're gonna find a way. Every winter ends in spring, every broken reckoning, and we find forever somewhere in between. You can feel the fire start, the wild reaches of your heart. When you make it so, gonna fall apart. We're almost through the dark. The fingers of the trees end in promises of hope, each one waiting to unfurl, but it cannot see the snow. You think about it, we can always find a way. Yeah, well, think about it, we can always find a way. Every winter ends in spring, every rotten reckoning, and we find forever somewhere in between. You can feel the fire starting, the wild reaches of your heart. When you think it's all gonna fall apart, we're almost through the dark. But the circles within circles, spinning ever round and round. It's hard to see when we're standing still upon the ground.